Round 1. So it's fair to say it was the round of the mature ages. So firstly starting with Jack Hayes. So sensational debut, thought he was best on ground and by far and away St Kilda's best. So 3 goals, 10 marks, 3 free kicks, 4. I thought he was incredible forward of centre firstly, but through the ruck against Brodie Grundy he held his own. So, and drawing those free kicks against him, sensational. And he's only 192 centimetres. So he's one of those guys where he plays like he's more like a 198. So just really phenomenal competitor, plays a great brand of footy. So like him, he's going to hold his spot for the year, I feel. And look, Paddy Ryder, how's he going to work his way back into the team? If he does, well then I think that probably means Hayes would be that number 2 option up forward for the Saints to, I guess, take that pressure off Max King, who's really needed that for a few years now. The second debutant, so Nick Marden, so absolutely sensational. So game highs of 5 goals, 10 marks, clearly Essendon's best, and again, you could argue that he was best on ground. So absolutely sensational, and it was in a game as well where Essendon got absolutely smashed. So making it all the more impressive by Marden with his heroics really up forward, frankly. So next up, so Tyson Stengel, so 4 goals, 3 behinds, 20 disposals. Fantastic coming back. Just really continuing on where he left off in the SANFL last year. And then you've got Paddy Mccarden as well. Looked really solid in Sydney's defence. I almost said St Kilda there. But of course, former number 1 pick for St Kilda. And just really looked comfortable back there alongside his brother. And again, here's another where I think he just holds his spot all year. So 4 really outstanding players. And the quirky thing is, none of them were actually picked in the national preseason or rookie drafts. So you had Stengel, of course, who was a delisted free agent, but the other 3, well, they were picked up during the preseason supplemental period. So clubs really didn't have a great deal of confidence in any of them to not only just not senior list them, but even really bypassing them in the rookie draft. So what that tells me right away is there's a heap of quality, and I already knew this as a State League watcher, but there's a heap of quality outside the AFL that is not currently on AFL lists. So in this video, I'm really going to go through some of the key names to look out for this year that got overlooked last year, and I think wrongly got overlooked as players who were really key pieces in my power rankings last year, who are, in my opinion at least, of AFL quality, or alternatively can develop into AFL quality and certainly can contend for a best 22 spot at AFL level. So to go through some of the mature ages who are in my power rankings last year. So firstly, I'll start with those that were actually recruited, and then I'll go on to those that are really, I guess, those leftovers that really present great opportunities for AFL clubs. So firstly, at number 9 in my power rankings last year, I had Leclerc. So I thought he was an outstanding pickup by GWS. And in terms of a succession plan for when Phil Davis retires, I think he's one of those guys where have him develop for a few years and then he can really step in and really be a factor. So coming from quite a way back, but he's someone where he's really rapidly developed, really transforming into an excellent key defender last year after really having a few years where he was hurt, having been really a forward until then and really switching back last year and really having a phenomenal season as not only that sort of contested intercept marking force, but then also from a shutdown perspective. So whether we see him this year, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but he's someone where certainly for 3 or 4 years down the line, I have really high hopes for Leclerc. So the next one was Hugh Greenwood at number 31 in my power rankings. So of course he was a delisted free agent, and he was someone where I really just looked at Gold Coast's decision to delist him, just basically like they're being silly, where he's one of Gold Coast's best players. What are you doing? So I think he's obviously going to have great success with North Melbourne and be a really solid piece through there. And particularly during this time when Ben Cunnington's out, well, I think that's really going to make things quite a lot easier for North Melbourne. The next of those that was picked up, so Sam Skinner. So he was another delisted free agent, and he's one where I think he actually has the scope this year to break into Port Adelaide's best 22, but it's a wait and see. Certainly what he did in the SANFL last year as a key defender was outstanding, so he's clearly found his position, and I think he's got the scope to play to an AFL standard. So have to wait and see there, but I'm quietly confident that he's someone where at some point or another he'll break through and start to really present a strong option for Port Adelaide. Number 37 in my power rankings last year, Charlie Deans. So he was rookied by Collingwood. And if not for his injury, well, I think we probably would have seen him round one with, of course, Roughhead being absent for Collingwood. So he was that logical option to come in as a key defender and allow the likes of a Jeremy Howe not to have to play as a key defender. So, and really sort of be exposed to those taller guys. But Howe, of course, can play that a little bit bigger as needed. So number 40, Tyson Stengel is a delisted free agent. So that one's looking quite positive. And the key with him, I always said during the draft process last year, is he needs to go to the right club. So a good established club where he's going to have a mentor and he's really going to, I guess, have those structures around him. So Geelong's the perfect spot for him, and already in round one, looks fantastic. So you can basically bump him up the rankings based on how things are looking, certainly at this stage. At number 54, so Biggie Newen, he was one where I really wanted to see another club give him an opportunity. And look, Richmond have obviously redrafted him as a rookie. And I think he's still potentially got the scope to be a long-term piece for Richmond. Just with that athletic profile, he can read it well behind the ball, intercept. So he's almost like that, I guess, Lecalier light, where if you can't get an Alier, well, a Biggie Newen is certainly another, you could still say project player, but certainly someone with that scope to develop. And of course, his development's been hurt quite a bit where, of course, the VFL season, well, it wasn't a full year last year. Year one was sort of ruined. And of course, again, there wasn't sort of the VFL happening, had his injuries then. So, he's one where I'd say give him time and he's got the scope to be a piece in the long run. So I'm quite excited to see what he can produce over the next few years, assuming he's persisted with. And then also at number 60. So this is one I'm glad I have on my power rankings, but Jack Hayes. So loved him for a number of years in the Sandful and thought, hey, this guy should be on an AFL list, and he's more than proving it. And it's fair to say, if I did a draft redo of last year's draft, well, he'd be much higher than 60. But glad that I gave him credit and the recognition that he deserved of actually being in a top 60 at least. So, but then, of course, of those, I guess, remaining players that were inside my top 60, of those mature ages last year. So Bailey Rogers, who I had at 32. So I thought really he moved into that Hayden Sloith, Jai Bolton category of the absolute uber elite midfielders by state league standards. So he's a lock and load best 22, any team. Put him in a midfield, he can rest forward, really have an impact. So clubs are missing out. There's an opportunity that could have been had there. And I think maybe in the mid-season draft is someone where he should be looked at very closely, and if he reproduces what he did last year, well, hey, someone should be picking him up because, hey, you've got an opportunity here. 33, I had Blake Slenslog, so didn't like what he did in the second half of the year as a key forward, but loved his first half as a key defender. And I think by him being overlooked, it's pretty clear that people have forgotten how good he was in that first half of the season as a key defender. So if that's a list need for me, well, hey, he's the first guy I'm bringing in, based certainly at least on what he did last year. Just rapidly improving, has all the attributes, reads it as well as I've seen behind the ball. So for me, he ticks the boxes. Has the athletic profile, great height, so strong. So yeah, absolute tick. Uses it well. 35, I had Angus Baker. So he's someone I've been big on for a number of years now. And look, he was a 30 disposal a game guy in the NEAFL. So just elite interceptor, elite ball user by state league standards. And in the VFL last year, well, he was good for his 25 disposals and probably his roughly 7 or 8 marks per game. So just one of those outstanding state leaguers. And if I want a general defender and one that can intercept and generate a bit of rebound, well, hey, he'd be the first guy on my list, that's for sure. So Essendon considered him during the mid-season draft, overlooked him. But I still believe that he is AFL caliber, and really clubs have been missing out for a few years on that opportunity there. 36, I had Jack Avery. So here's one where, look, he was an overager last year, but absolutely outstanding. Waffle Colts, as a defender, he found more of the footy than anyone, and then stepped up to Waffle League level and really held his own and played an impressive brand of footy. So even as someone who was really known as an accumulator, someone who played loose and intercepted, well, at that level, he actually showed he could do shutdown jobs and did a great shutdown job on Tyler Keitel. I think he limited him to 1 goal. So yeah, look, as that sort of medium to tall sort of defender who can play key defender as required, well, hey, he's someone where, as that sort of roughly third tall, I've got quite a lot of confidence in and would be very happy to bring into my club if, again, looking for an extra piece in defence. 38, I had Ronald Fedjo Jr. And again, Essendon were looking at him, and it seems like Essendon look at quite a few of the good names. So they were looking at him through the pre-season supplemental period, but of course settled for Tex Wanganeen and of course Nick Martin. So, and look, it looks like certainly with Martin they've done very well. But Fedjo Jr., look, in terms of just the run and drive he generates, the excitement, has that evasion, has the skills. So he's really got a lot of talent, it's fair to say. So I'd absolutely love to see him get that opportunity. Casey Voss at number 39. I'm almost thinking I probably should have had him a little bit higher. But look, as that sort of general defender in the sandful. And again, we've got so many of these State League defenders that have made it over the years and become really the best among their positions. So it shouldn't be surprising there's that many in the State Leagues available that really present great opportunities. But yeah, with Casey Voss, look, he can play a shutdown role and negate the influence of the other forwards. But again, he can still generate that drive. He can still intercept. So he's got that really complete game for a general defender, where lock and load, best 22, a lot of teams he'd be just stepping in there and really playing a great brand of footy. So opportunity missed. And look, the son of Michael Voss, how can you miss this guy? So rapid improver. So he's obviously got the attitude and all the things you really want. So look, I'd be thoroughly convinced, it's fair to say, to bring him into my club if I want another good defender. And then moving to 53, so Corey Preston. So overager last year. Liked him upon his move into defence. Just generates drive, can intercept a bit. So again, opportunity being missed there. 55, I had Marty Gleeson. So he's one where, look, Essendon obviously delisted him. But yeah, look, I still thought really each year he was still playing good footy, really had quite a complete game. But yeah, just underutilised by Essendon, I felt. But injuries have played a substantial part, of course, in him being eventually pushed out. But yeah, for a club looking for a general defender who's pretty good and can still play for a few more years at a good level, well, hey, here's someone I still thought was quite capable. Number 56, Bailey Lambert, so son of Craig, so he was a father-son eligible player. And look, as a general forward, he's probably one of the more exciting, where he's got the speed, he's got the attributes, really hits the scoreboard like crazy, and pretty good mark as well. So again, opportunity. Jacob Dawson, number 57. So, and look, he previously played for Gold Coast, but really playing in the VFL this year as a midfielder, he was absolutely racking it up. He was getting Nathan Freeman numbers for those that were hearing all the stories about Nathan Freeman. Well, Jacob Dawson's probably one that is that sort of high-end VFL midfielder, at least. I thought was probably the pick of the bunch, and really impressed with his ball winning and accumulating capabilities. So, again, opportunity missed. And then there's two key forwards that I rated slightly above Hayes. And look, they don't have the same versatility, but in terms of scoreboard impact, I would say they're quite a way superior. So I'd be looking at Tyler Keitel from the Waffle and then Matthew Hamilman from the VFL. So Hamilman, of course, previously played for Brisbane. And look, he's that sort of tall key forward, athletic, dead eye in front of goal, just hits the scoreboard like mad. Good mark. And then you've got Tyler Keitel as well, who isn't necessarily as athletic, but look, again, just brings the scoreboard impact, strong mark, just a really good footballer. So you've got all these types of guys where, again, I'd be very comfortable recruiting them. And even beyond this list, I could name names all day in the state leagues where, look, they're AFL standards. So you've got your Hayden Sloiths, Jai Boltons. Well, they've been AFL standard for the last 5 years and clubs just haven't given them opportunities. So basically clubs just need to, I guess, get out there, notice these names more. And I feel really dismayed by the online AFL draft community where really they follow the under-18s religiously and watch as much almost as the recruiters would, just about some of them. But the problem I'm finding with a lot of the online recruiting community, and a lot of the mainstream media is guilty of this, but they're not covering the state leaguers and they're not really giving them any notice. And they can put together whether it's a top 20, top 30, top 40, even top 50 power rankings, and there will be no mature age prospects at all in there. And when you're looking, of course, at what the likes of Jack Hayes are doing, what Nick Martin's doing, what Tyson Stengel even is doing, Paddy Mccarden, well, it's basically one of these egg on face situations where you're missing out on what really should be considered roughly half of that draft class. And frankly, from the third round onwards, I see superior value in the way of mature age picks over all these players through the under 18s who, in my opinion at least, are those lower percentage options that I wouldn't even necessarily have the same scope to develop. Where if you track the development of a lot of these mature ages versus a lot of these younger players, well, you'll find that the actual development of these mature ages is often actually quite a lot better in those years after being drafted than some of these younger guys. And it just comes down to, even though they're those years older and they may not seem to have the same physical development, well, they've got that maturity and that real want to really make it, and they've got that drive. So yeah, absolutely, there's opportunities being missed in the way of mature ages. And yeah, I think really people in the media, and I'm of course one myself, but I think broadly speaking as an industry, we really need to cover these mature ages a lot more, because hey, the opportunities are there, and basically people just aren't scouting these leagues properly. So there's an opportunity there for savvy clubs to really, I guess, invest more heavily in their state league recruitment. Geelong, of course, has been one of the prime examples of doing this successfully, headlined, of course, by the recruiting selections of Tom Stewart and Tim Kelly. And even before that, you could go back to Harry Taylor, of course, who was phenomenal. And as a rookie, well, James Podsey Adley. So you've got all these names over the years. So it's just a case of really, when you go through draft by draft by draft, I can really say from the third round onwards, this is the cutoff point, and really from this point onwards, you're going to get more value from mature ages on average. So if more time, of course, was spent looking at them, and it's not even a case of the players being drafted are the ones. It's a case of there's all these guys going undrafted that are oftentimes better than the ones even getting drafted, whether it's late or rookie. And then years on years later, maybe they get discovered or maybe they get picked, but a lot of the time they're not. So it's really a scenario where I guess we really need to improve our idea of these state leaguers, and really it's something that I would be imploring anyone in the online draft community that tracks certainly the under 18s. I would say broaden out, expand to the state leagues, because basically, if you're watching the state leaguers, well, you're not paying enough attention when you're missing guys who are this good, basically. So, and if you're not watching the state leaguers, well, get out and watch them, because basically you're getting a higher percentage recruiting choice, and you're getting guys that can step in round one, year one, as we're seeing now of guys who weren't even drafted in the national preseason or rookie drafts. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I've opened some people's eyes to really the fact that, well, if there's players of this quality that are going undrafted in both the national preseason and rookie draft, and they're getting through the preseason supplemental period and being this impactful from round one, year one, well, hopefully it really opens some eyes as to really, I guess, how many other names there are left over in the state leagues. And I guess really, hopefully this starts a discussion around, hey, there are some players in the state leagues that should be at AFL level, and it'd be great really for there to be more online dialogue, be it whether it's on Twitter, YouTube, Big Footy, whatever the platform. I think there really should be a lot more discussion around these names, and I'd really like to engage with some more people around some of the mature age players that are really impressing you, whether you're watching the VFL, Sandful, Waffle, whatever the competition is. So but yeah, if you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future updates. And if there's a state leaguer that's impressed you, whether it was last year or in recent years, I'd be really interested to hear some of their names in the comments section below. But anyway, guys, see you in the next video.